What if I told you that a single city once ruled over more than 70 million people? That a small group of farmers and warriors from the banks of the Tiber River would go on to create one of the most powerful and influential civilizations in history? The story of Rome is not just about armies and emperors, it's a saga of ambition, betrayal, genius, brutality, and an unstoppable drive to conquer. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and it certainly wasn't built without cost. Blood was spilled, republics crumbled, legends were born. In this deep dive, we'll journey from the myths of Rome's founding, through centuries of wars, political struggles, and revolutions, until the moment Rome crowned its first emperor, forever changing the course of human history. So buckle up, because this is not just history, this is the rise of an empire. To understand Rome's rise, we must first step into the misty world of myth and legend, a world where the lines between history and storytelling blur. According to legend, Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, twin brothers abandoned at birth, left to die by the jealous king Romulus, but fate had other plans. They were rescued by a she-wolf, nurtured in a cave by the Tiber River, and eventually grew into fierce young men. But as they set out to build a city together, tragedy struck. In a bitter dispute over who should rule, Romulus killed his brother Remus. He became the sole founder, naming the city after himself, Roma. While the myth gives Rome a heroic and violent origin, archaeology tells us something else too. Rome likely started as a cluster of small settlements on the famous Seven Hills, sometime around 753 BCE. In these early days, Rome wasn't a republic or an empire. It was ruled by kings, and some of the most influential early rulers weren't even Romans. They were Etruscans, a powerful neighboring civilization. The Etruscans brought with them sophisticated building techniques, religious rituals, and political ideas. They taught the Romans how to construct roads, temples, and even organize public games, the precursors to what would become the famous gladiator contests. During this time, the foundation of Roman culture was laid, including deep beliefs in gods and omens, traditions of divination, and the beginnings of Rome's obsession with law and civic duty. Religion wasn't just a private affair, it was a public duty, tied directly to the success of the city itself. Rome's earliest kings, both Roman and Etruscan, created the first versions of Roman governance, laying the groundwork for what would eventually become a republic, and later, an empire. But as Rome grew in power and ambition, so did the tensions beneath the surface, and soon, the people would rise to overthrow their kings. The early kings had given Rome structure, but by the late 6th century BCE, the people of Rome had grown tired of monarchs, especially one. Meet Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, better known as Tarquin the Proud. His reign was brutal, cruel, and marked by tyranny. He ignored the Senate, ruled by fear, and cared only for his own wealth and power. The final spark? A horrific crime committed by his son, Sextus Tarquinius, against a noblewoman named Lucretia. Her tragic story stirred outrage across Rome. The Romans had enough. They rose in rebellion, led by the nobleman Lucius Junius Brutus. In a dramatic turning point, Tarquin and his family were expelled from Rome, ending the era of kings forever. In the wake of the monarchy's fall, Rome did something almost unheard of in the ancient world. They chose a new form of government, a republic. At the heart of the republic stood the Senate, an advisory council of Rome's elite elders, the patricians. And instead of a king, Rome elected 2 consuls each year, sharing power to prevent tyranny. These consuls commanded the army, presided over the government, and could veto each other's decisions. And to make sure everyday Romans had a voice, assemblies were created, gatherings where citizens could vote on laws and elect officials. But the republic was far from perfect. From the very start, Rome was divided. The wealthy landowning patricians and the poor, often powerless plebeians. The plebeians demanded rights. They wanted representation, protection, and fairness under the law. In 451 BCE, after years of pressure, Rome made a major breakthrough, the creation of the 12 Tables, Rome's first public written set of laws. The 12 Tables laid the foundation for Roman law, establishing rights, duties, and legal protections for all free Roman citizens. For the first time, law was no longer hidden. It belonged to the people. With its republic in place, Rome stood stronger than ever. But soon, it would face new challenges beyond its walls, battles that would either crush it or forge it into a powerhouse. By the 5th century BCE, Rome was no longer just a small city-state. It was hungry for more. and Italy was its playground. Rome's first mission? Conquer its neighbors. From the Latin tribes to the Etruscans, Samnites, and even the fierce Gauls, Rome battled tribe after tribe, expanding its territory piece by piece. But Rome didn't win just by force. They had something special, the Roman legion. The Roman legion was unlike anything the ancient world had seen. Well-trained, highly organized, and flexible in battle, Roman soldiers fought in tight units called cohorts and centuries, following precise orders like a human machine. Instead of a massive, unwieldy army charging all at once, Rome's legions could adapt to the battlefield, shifting, breaking, and reforming their lines with stunning discipline. Their famous testudo formation, shields locked overhead and on the sides, turned soldiers into a moving fortress, nearly invincible against arrows and spears. But Rome wasn't just strong on the battlefield. It was brilliant in diplomacy too. After defeating enemies, Rome offered them a deal. Become allies, supply troops, and in return, they would gain protection, and even a chance at Roman citizenship. Many conquered cities accepted. Rome didn't just crush, it absorbed, growing stronger with every battle and every alliance. This strategy of inclusion built a loyal network across Italy, making Rome more powerful than any single tribe had ever been. By the 3rd century BCE, Rome controlled most of the Italian peninsula, a republic built not just on conquest, but on unity, strategy, and a powerful vision of destiny. But across the sea, a new threat was rising, one that would challenge everything Rome had built. Rome ruled Italy. But across the sea, in North Africa, there was a rival. A wealthy, powerful city called Carthage. Carthage commanded the Mediterranean with its mighty navy and immense riches. Rome and Carthage were destined to collide, and their struggle would shake the ancient world. The Punic Wars. 3 brutal conflicts that spanned over a century. But today, we focus on the most legendary one, the Second Punic War. At the heart of it was a Carthaginian general, a military genius named Hannibal Barca. In 218 BCE, Hannibal pulled off one of the most daring moves in history. He led an army, with war elephants, across the icy, treacherous Alps into Italy. Facing avalanches, freezing temperatures, and ambushes, Hannibal lost half his army. But what survived was enough to terrify Rome. Hannibal crushed Roman forces in battle after battle. At Cannae, he annihilated nearly 50,000 Roman soldiers in a single day, one of the worst defeats in Roman history. Hannibal's tactics at Cannae are still taught in military academies today. Rome was bleeding, allies wavered, the city itself prepared for siege, but Rome refused to surrender. Enter Scipio Africanus, a young, bold Roman general with a daring plan. Don't defend, attack Carthage itself. In 204 BCE, Scipio invaded Carthaginian territory, forcing Hannibal to race home. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, Scipio crushed Hannibal's army, ending the Second Punic War. Carthage was defeated. Rome was victorious. The aftermath? Rome didn't just win a war. It gained complete dominance over the Western Mediterranean. Carthage was reduced to a shadow of its former self, paying massive tribute to Rome, while Rome absorbed vast new territories, resources, and power. Victory over Carthage marked Rome's rise from a regional power to a Mediterranean superpower. But with great power came new challenges, and the seeds of future conflicts were already being sown. Rome stood victorious. Gold flowed into the city. The empire was expanding, and Rome was richer than ever before. But beneath the marble and splendor, cracks were forming. As Rome's wealth grew, so did the gap between rich and poor. Elite families bought up huge estates called latifundia, worked by slaves taken from conquered lands. Meanwhile, small Roman farmers, the backbone of the Republic, were crushed by debt and abandoned the countryside. Corruption infected the government, senators lined their pockets, justice was for sale. Rome's proud ideals were being sold to the highest bidder. 2 brothers, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, tried to save the Republic. Tiberius proposed land reforms, to give land back to the poor farmers. The Senate, the rich elite, saw him as a threat. In 133 BCE, Tiberius was clubbed to death by a mob, the first political assassination in Roman history. His brother Gaius continued the fight, pushing for cheaper grain, public projects, and citizenship rights. But Gaius too faced fierce opposition, and met a violent end. 2 brothers dreamed of a fairer Rome. Both were silenced. As Rome's system broke down, another dangerous shift began. Roman soldiers, once loyal to the Republic, began pledging loyalty to their generals instead. Generals promised them wealth, land, and power, things the Republic no longer guaranteed. The Republic was bleeding internally. Civil wars, power struggles, and political chaos loomed. Rome was still mighty, but inside, the seeds of the Republic's fall had been planted. The Republic was wounded, but not yet dead. Out of the chaos, three men rose to dominate Roman politics: Julius Caesar, Pompey the Great, and Crassus the Rich. They formed a secret alliance known as the First Triumvirate. Together, they controlled the Senate, the armies, and Rome's future. Julius Caesar sought glory beyond politics. He embarked on a brutal campaign to conquer Gaul, modern-day France. Over 8 long years, he fought tribal leaders, won countless battles, and became a living legend. He wrote of his victories, capturing the imagination of the Roman people. But Caesar's growing fame and loyalty from his armies terrified the Senate and his old ally, Pompey. They ordered him to lay down his command and return to Rome, alone. Instead, in 49 BCE, Caesar made a choice that would change history. He crossed the Rubicon River with his army, a direct act of war against the Republic. There was no turning back. Rome plunged into civil war. Caesar chased Pompey across the Mediterranean. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was betrayed and murdered. The First Triumvirate was shattered. Only Caesar remained. In 46 BCE, Julius Caesar returned to Rome, not as a citizen but as a dictator for life. He passed sweeping reforms, from debt relief to new colonization programs. But many saw him not as a savior, but as a king in all but name. A group of senators calling themselves the Liberators conspired to end his rule. On the Ides of March, Julius Caesar entered the Senate, unaware he would not leave alive. In a brutal, frenzied attack, Caesar was stabbed 23 times. According to legend, his final words were not a cry of pain, but a whisper of betrayal. Et tu, brute? The death of Julius Caesar did not restore the Republic. Instead, it unleashed another storm, a final war for Rome's soul. The assassination of Julius Caesar did not bring peace. It unleashed a storm. Rome was without a clear leader. A power vacuum opened, and into that void, new ambitions rose. Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus formed the Second Triumvirate, a brutal alliance sworn to avenge Caesar. Together they launched purges across Rome, executing rivals, seizing property, eliminating anyone who stood in their way. Even Rome's greatest orator, Cicero, fell to their bloody prescriptions. After crushing Caesar's assassins at the Battle of Philippi, the Second Triumvirate divided the empire among themselves. But alliances born of necessity rarely endure. Mark Antony found more than just power in the East. He found love, with the legendary Queen Cleopatra of Egypt. Their passionate alliance shocked Rome. To Octavian, it looked like betrayal. Octavian seized the moment. He revealed Antony's so-called will, claiming Antony planned to abandon Rome and build a new empire with Cleopatra. Rome was outraged. War was inevitable. The Battle of Actium, the decisive moment in history. Octavian's forces faced Antony and Cleopatra's navy in the waters of western Greece. In the heat of battle, Cleopatra's fleet turned and fled. Antony, torn between love and loyalty, chose to follow her. Victory belonged to Octavian. Defeated and dishonored, Antony and Cleopatra took their own lives. Egypt fell under Roman rule, and Octavian stood alone as master of the known world. In 27 BCE, Octavian offered to restore power to the Senate, but the Senate, grateful and fearful, gave him supreme authority. He accepted a new title, Augustus, the revered one. The Republic was dead. The Roman Empire was born. After centuries of war, betrayal, and chaos, a new age dawned for Rome. In 27 BCE, Octavian was granted a new name, Augustus, meaning the revered one. Augustus was more than a ruler. He was the architect of a new order. Though he claimed to restore the Republic, Augustus held ultimate power in his hands. He allowed the Senate to exist, but real authority rested with him. He became Princeps Civitatis, first citizen, a master of appearances, blending old traditions with new realities. Under Augustus, Rome entered a time of unprecedented peace and prosperity. The Pax Romana, Roman peace, had begun. For over 200 years, Rome would know stability, growth, and wealth on a scale the world had never seen. Augustus also nurtured the arts. He sponsored great works like Virgil's Aeneid, and filled Rome with temples and forums, monuments to both the gods and himself. Family values, tradition, and loyalty to Rome became pillars of his regime. Through laws and moral reforms, Augustus sought to shape not just an empire, but the soul of Rome itself. He ruled for over 40 years, growing old as the father of an empire. As Augustus himself once said, "I found Rome a city of brick, and I leave it a city of marble." Through vision, patience, and unmatched political genius, Augustus laid the foundation for the greatest empire the world had ever known. From a small city on the banks of the Tiber, Rome had risen to rule the known world. At its height, the Roman Empire brought together millions of people across 3 continents under one banner. Roman architecture transformed the ancient world. Aqueducts carried fresh water across cities, roads stretched like veins connecting distant lands, arches and domes stood tall, symbols of Rome's genius and ambition. Rome's power was built on its unmatched military. The Roman legion, a force of engineering, discipline, and loyalty, conquered and defended an empire for centuries. Roman law became the backbone of civilization. Principles like innocent until proven guilty and equality before the law were born here, and echo even today. Their roads were marvels of engineering, connecting the empire faster than ever before. Trade, communication, and culture flowed freely, binding together a world under Roman rule. The language of Rome, Latin, became the root of countless languages: Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, Romanian, and shaped the very words we speak today. Their ideas of governance, senates, republics, and civic duty became the foundation for modern democracy. Rome ruled the world, and its legacy shaped the centuries that followed. But no empire lasts forever. Even mighty Rome faced storms it could not withstand. Coming soon, the fall of Rome. How did the greatest empire crumble? And that is the story of the rise of the Roman Empire, from a myth by the Tiber to ruling a world beyond imagination. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through history. I hope you enjoyed exploring the birth of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. If you loved this deep dive into ancient Rome, make sure to like this video, drop a comment to let me know your thoughts, and subscribe for even more epic stories from the ancient world. And here's a question for you. Which legendary Roman figure should we cover in a full video next? Should it be Julius Caesar, the brilliant general and tragic dictator? Hannibal, the fearless Carthaginian who nearly broke Rome? Or Augustus, the first emperor who changed history forever? Tell me in the comments. Your choice could shape the next epic adventure. See you in the next chapter of history.